nature of fraud in public sector. Most government, particularly in a low risk culture like Canada and a high kind of accountability culture like Canada, public sector employees are, by the most part, doing the right thing. And so when fraud happens within their organization, typically the tolerance for fraud is zero. A politician is saying, I'm not accepting fraud anywhere. It's not going to happen. But the reality is criminals and internal fraud and things like that happen. And so when fraud happens, it sheds a spotlight on somebody that something has happened. And so it becomes a negative conversation.
Yeah.
I know what my risks are. I've had this fraud, and here's the activities that I've done to prevent and detect fraud. And it's that attestation that it comes from the top. It's a very senior set of accountabilities, and it drives activities so that their management teams are like, I guess we better update our fraud risk assessment today, this year, because I've got to attest that I'm doing the right things. And it's a really powerful tool.
Oh, so it's similar to like how when we do audits, we have to do control attestation that we believe that controls. Oh, that's very interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So Ontario has that.
Yeah. Many provinces do. In our research, we found that it's been very effective in Ontario.
Yeah. Because then, the people on the top, before they're going to sign off, I really should make sure that, we've done some work around this at least, right? So.
Right. But when I think about this problem at a country level within Canada, which was part of our research, I think we think in industry in general that Canada could do better by recognizing the central opportunities and consistency of process and skills for fraud prevention, particularly focused on fraud prevention. We have something called the Canadian Financial Crimes Agency. Fraud is a good thing. Fraud is always changing. And these messages around accepting and understanding fraud and being aware of what the fraud is so that you can prevent it and detect it are critical in public sector activities and public sector response through, things like program integrity. They've actually created a classification of jobs with certification and training so that different ministries, departments, and teams within departments can build these best practices, be certified, understand them, conduct fraud risk assessment, build controls, build the prevention and detection, so that they are bringing the story of fraud out from the corners and the dark corners where it's frequently not talked about into a very clear conversation and a skill set to help prevent and detect.